Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. One more sleep. The NBA regular season, it is almost upon us. Today, we've got some news to get into, some extensions. We're also going to give our predictions for the major awards in the NBA. I'm Trevor Lane, joined by Keith Smith. Just a reminder, everybody, smash that subscribe button. We hit our goal for subscribers, 35,000, and we're going to dress up on Halloween in some ridiculous costumes. So if you want to see that, make sure you do subscribe. Keith, I hope we get, I think it's going to be close, man. I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, it's going to be close. We need definitely some people to jump in there and push it over the top because, we're looking forward to humiliating ourselves. It's beyond just our ridiculously bad basketball takes. We'll be look like dummies too. So why not? We'll match the info that comes out. From what we hear sometimes, especially from our teams of choice that we root for. We tend to hear a little bit of noise on that. So I gotta say this just off the top. I'm like maybe a week and a half here from being a completely insufferable person. Because if the Celtics raise banner 18 and the Yankees win the World Series, no one's going to be able to talk to me anymore. I'm going to be,
and you're one of the very few Celtics fans. I would have to, there's not many of you, I would assume, Celtics fans that are also Yankees fans. I'd have to admit, there's not a big Yankees Celtics crossover. It's like there's not a lot of Giants fans that are also Lakers fans, right? Like when we're crossing over MLB to NBA.
It is very funny when I was very happy and excited that the Yankees are going back to the World Series for the first time since 2009. I had a lot of people like, Wade, how are you a Yankee fan? I've explained it before multiple times, but then a lot of people, not like an overwhelming amount, but a good amount of people checked in and were like, I'm also a Celtics Yankees fan. And a lot of where it comes out of is a lot of people who are from like Connecticut, where it's like, they're right like that, like midway through Connecticut's like borderline, like cutting off. And then there were a handful of people who were like, I'm from Vermont, but my family, was like grew up in like Yankee games or what I could get on the radio. And and then there were a handful of people who were like, I just picked teams when I was a kid and that's what I picked and I've stuck with it. So it was interesting. It was more people than I kind of expected there to be. But yeah, I'm pretty fired up. So I was just going through and looking at it. There's a lot of overlap, obviously, with the start of the NBA season. So there'll be a lot of split screen viewing going on in the Smith house.
There is a lot of overlap, which because the kid, you realize it's your Yankees against my Dodgers. So there is, I was looking ahead. I was looking ahead at the schedule. I'm like, oh my gosh. There's so many times where I'm going to be doing play-by-play for a Lakers game, and I'm just going to have a second screen going with the Dodger game on to keep an eye on that.
That's right. You and like 90% of your viewing audience, I imagine, will probably be in the same boat. So it's
for sure.
It's exciting time, man. This is one of like the coolest times of the year because you've got everything, right? Everything we care about is all kind of in full swing and everything. But I will be excited for the World Series to end and then can really focus on the NBA. And college basketball starts a little earlier than usual this year. It's only 2 weeks away. From today, from tipping off, so it's gonna slightly earlier than usual start to it too. So we're about to be swimming in basketball. But with that said, we want to start off. We get a little bit of news, then we're going to do the first half of our predictions, season previews. We're going to start with the awards, like you said, but let's get into a little bit of news because it's extension day. This is the last day for extensions.
All right, so Trey Murphy III gets an extension done with the New Orleans Pelicans. I don't have the number in front of me. As I recall, it's what, 129?
112.
112. Okay, well, sorry, Trey. I gave you more than you actually got. 112. But Trey Murphy III gets this 4-year deal. Now, no team option, no player option, nothing, just an old-fashioned 4-year deal. That's it. No frills or anything like that. So Trey Murphy III, do you like this deal? And then what does this say about the Pelicans and their plans moving forward?
I do like the deal. I like it a lot. When I wrote my piece for Spot Track, projecting rookie scale extensions, I had him at 5/140, which is the exact same AAV of 28 million a year. So I'm obviously fine with that average annual value on this, and I think it's a good deal for both sides. I think the Pelicans they're roughly about 35, 36 million under the luxury tax for next season now. With Murphy in the fold, they've got a couple roster spots to fill. Obviously, a couple guys will come off the books. The big one coming off the books, though, is Brandon Ingram. So we're still going to find out what happens with that. But Murphy, that's a really good contract for him. I feel really good about the value there. I feel really good about the fact that it's fully guaranteed. I think 4 years is good for him because he gets back on the market before he hits 30. He should be in his prime years. When he hits there, he'll be about 28 years old. So, and then the Pelicans lock up a key player. The big thing, it's got to get and stay healthy, right? Because that's been a problem over the last couple of seasons. So hopefully he can get and stay healthy. And then the Pelicans are kind of off and running. Something's going to give eventually. You're going to probably have to trade somebody. But for now, you lock up the pieces and you worry about that down the line.
Yeah, he's going to miss the start of the season due to a hamstring injury. So that's certainly unfortunate. But Keith, when I look at this, Herb Jones, I mean, his deal is so small, relatively, we're talking about right around an MLE deal. But it's hard to not feel like, despite the fact that there's not a major cash outlay to Herb Jones, to not feel like the wings of the future for the Pelicans are Herb Jones and Trey Murphy and
Agreed.
Brandon Ingram. At some point, that situation is going to resolve itself. I think if they plan to keep him long term, that would already be done. We know he'll be on the trade block, I think, for however long it takes. What happens, though, if there's no deal? Do the Pelicans just keep him and go into the summer and say, okay, we're going to let you walk in free agency? Like that could get a little bit tricky with so far teams not having interest in Brandon Ingram because nobody wants to be the team to pay him his next contract given how much he wants.
Yeah, I think what happens with that situation, obviously we'll find out, right? But I feel like where this could go is Ingram maybe gets into the summertime and has kind of a little bit of all right, my market's not what I thought it was, right? No one's ready to hand me a max. Or on the flip side, he plays incredibly well. And then maybe it is a team is like, hey, we want to do it. But maybe for the Pelicans' benefit, it becomes, hey, we got to do this as a sign and trade because there's just not a lot of cap space out there. And the teams that have cap space, I struggle to see being like heavily involved in the Brandon Ingram market because it's like rebuilding teams like the Nets and the Wizards. So I'm just not sure we're going to see them do that. So maybe for the Pelicans, then it can be, all right, let's do a sign and trade. This front office has been pretty creative in the past with getting deals done and making trades happen for guys both going out and guys coming in. So maybe that's what it is. So I think for Brandon Ingram and the Pelicans, the best thing is come into the season, kick some butt, right? Play really, really well. Do what's asked of you, with the team, and then let's see where it comes out. So I kind of think this one may be where I don't know that he's on the team long term, but this may end up working out to everybody's benefit because maybe then the Pelicans, maybe that's the roster rebalancing trade, right? Maybe that is where they can get a true center in there, or they can get somebody else who just fits a little bit better.
There were some rumblings during the summer. I don't recall exactly when. It may have been mid-July or so, but about a deal between the Hawks and the Pelicans about Clint Capella and something. The Hawks weren't interested in that, but I'm not saying that would be where they ultimately land, but I think that's the type of move the Pelicans are going to look to try to find a big using Brandon Ingram. You can rebalance things that way, and there you go. But anyway,
this season will obviously tell us a lot about where kind of everything is going to fall out because there'll be teams obviously that feel really good about where they are right now that aren't going to feel so great about that going into next summer, and they're going to be like, all right, well, we need as a scoring wing or whatever. Maybe they have an extra big and they can swing it. So maybe the Pelicans, maybe it does work out with playing Zion more at the 5, and they're like, we just need kind of the big bulky placeholder center for to get by for the opening 5 minutes of games or whatever it is. So I'm very curious to watch this team. I think they have, maybe without stepping on our standings preview, which will come tomorrow, they may have the widest range of outcomes where I think there's a world where they are awesome and there's a world where this all kind of goes super sideways. There's way too many guys, not enough minutes, too many agendas, and it all kind of falls apart.
Yeah, their range of outcomes is certainly wide. All right, let's jump over to the Golden State Warriors, who extended Moses Moody, who's been shooting the ball pretty well, at least from the games he's played against my Lakers in the preseason that I happened to see. He looked great, shot the ball extremely well. He gets an extension done, 3-year deal, right about MLE money for him. I like that deal for the Warriors. I think he's a solid rotation player for them. Maybe some upside to be a bit more. The Jonathan Kuminga thing probably not going to get worked out ahead of today's deadline here, but Moses Moody, I like this deal for Golden State. I think it was a smart move for them.
Yeah, I do too. I'm very excited for the Warriors. I think Moses Moody is a pretty good player who needs just regular minutes. Now, there's two parts to this, right? All right, you just paid him an average of 13 million a year. Is he going to see those minutes, every single night? Are you going to play him all the time? Or are you going to now be like, well, now it's done. He can just continue to not always be a regular rotation guy. But I think his combination of size and shooting is really important to the Warriors team, which they have. Their guards tend to trend a little on the smaller side. Some of them with like Steph and Melton and Peyton, or they're not always the most reliable shooters. I think Moody, along with Pajemski, that's your kind of there's your 2 guard spot really filled. And Moody's obviously big enough to play up the 3 as well. So I think this was a really smart signing for the Warriors. Now let's just play him every night, give him minutes every game.
Yeah, that's it exactly. He's got to get the opportunity. Now, Steve Kerr recently, I believe it was yesterday, was talking about how difficult of a decision he now has to make in terms of figuring out his starting 5. That's going to be really, now Moses Moody's not going to be in the mix for that, but that's going to be really fascinating to see, because it does look like Trayce Jackson-Davis is between him and Kevon Looney does appear to be the guy that would probably get the nod there. But the question becomes, what do you do with Jonathan Kuminga? I think this is going to be one of the interesting things to see, because none of these guys really want to come off the bench. You could put Jonathan Kuminga on the floor you can go Andrew Wiggins at the 3, Kuminga at the 4, Draymond Green at the 5. You could start that lineup if you want. Kerr doesn't want to do that from last we heard. Draymond doesn't want to play the 5. Kuminga thinks he's a 3, but then what do you do with Andrew Wiggins? So the bottom line, you have Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, Draymond Green, Trayce Jackson-Davis / Kevon Looney, one of those 2, and one of those guys isn't going to wind up being in the starting lineup, but feels like they should be. So how they navigate that is going to be really fascinating.
Yeah, 100%. I wrote about this when I did my roster and rotation battles piece in the Pacific Division for Spot Track. My guys there were the Warriors front court. Was like, how does that play out because of everything you just mentioned? And I think with Draymond, yes, clearly he's going to play the 5 a lot, but he just doesn't want to start as the 5. Like, that's just too much on him. And he's, in his mid-30s now, I guess we can say. So like, he's in his mid-30s. Like, where are we going to put kind of the line on him of how many minutes can he handle at the 5? It's not 30 a night. I know that. It's probably closer to like 15, when that's more closing each half that way. So that's tough. Like they've not that they've painted themselves in a corner by any means, but again, it just feels like kind of similar to the Pelicans. You have one too many guys there, and none of them are really a 5. So now you're kind of stuck. The difference is, I think they're perfectly happy with, all right, we'll start Trayce Jackson-Davis. Or if we really have to, we'll start Kevon Looney, but that's going to be like first 5-6 minutes of the game thing. And then he's out and you don't see him again for the rest of the half. So, I'm very curious to see how this goes, because putting Wiggins on the bench just feels weird, but it feels like kind of the way to go if you're going to go with a real 5. So I'm not sure where else, because I don't know that you can slide him down to the 2 anymore. I think he's more of a 3-4 now than he is a 3-2. And that makes that part of it a little tougher.
Well, and I think especially if you're all in on Brandon Podziemski.
Yeah.
And he's going to be your guy in the backcourt there. But I think a lot of this, it hinges upon, and I'm pulling up his stats right now for the preseason. it hinges upon the ability of Jonathan Kuminga to hit the three. And he did that during preseason, 44%. I knew it was up there. 44% from three on 4.2 attempts in the preseason. That's the key, because it's pretty clear that he's not going to be there is no conversation about Wiggins or Kuminga if Kuminga's a 27% three-point shooter or whatever. If he's not a threat out there, then it's not going to happen. If he is, though, and we've seen there's been, hot streaks and cold streaks, but if he's a consistent three-point threat, that makes it more of a conversation of can Jonathan Kuminga really play the three? If he's not hitting the three-point shot, he's probably going to play more four, maybe with Draymond out there. And I think how the Warriors handle this will largely be dependent on, do they buy that Kuminga is going to get the respective defenses behind the three-point line?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I know he wants to be a three, but I just feel like he's a better weapon at the four.
Yeah.
Like he just becomes a lot harder to guard at that position. But I think that's probably more of that becomes kind of like almost a semantics thing. Like you're both, like you're a forward. Like eventually we're just gonna have forwards, and that'll be how it works itself out. But yeah, I don't know. The one thing too, if they start sliding guys down, we just talked about it. Play Moses Moody. We start to run out of minutes because you've got an awful lot of guys who are two guards on this roster with Moody and Pajemski and Melton and Buddy Hield. Now Melton could be the backup point guard. You got Gary Payton II, plays a lot at the two as well. So you've just got an awful lot of guys there that's a lot of dudes that play the same position, and that's where it could start to get kind of messy. It'll probably resolve itself with guys missing time, because a lot of those guys miss time with injuries too. But we'll see how that comes together.
All right, let's get into it, Keith. It's that time for some awards.
Hey, Parker, what is that? Don't bother me now, sweet. Can't see I'm busy. Yeah, but what is that? It's a major award. A major award?
Shucks, I wouldn't have known, Dad. It looks like a lamp.
Well, it is a lamp, you nincompoop, but it's a major award. I won it.
It's a major award.
It's a major award. Let's go.
Let's go.
That's one of my favorite scenes in that movie too.
That's great. It's that, and I still without fail, Keith, if I see the word fragile, it's not possible to look at, to not say fragile. It must be Italian.
Every time. Yeah, absolutely. That and I like when he says to the kid, he just boots him in the face and kicks him.
Oh yeah, the Santa. For anybody who is not aware of what we're talking about here, for anybody who's maybe in a younger generation, we're talking about A Christmas Story, the movie that we just played a clip from. But Keith, think about it though. Like there's a chance that there's a good chance that we've got people watching or listening right now that have not seen it, especially if you are of the younger generation. Maybe you didn't,
or if you're not from the United States,
or sure, absolutely. So anyway, it
is only
that's
on
what we're referencing
all day Christmas Day though,
all day
TBS. So
it's
if you haven't seen it, check it out. Have you seen the new one? I did not watch the new one.
No, I didn't even know
they made like a new one that it was like Ralphie's like the dad now. I did not watch it. I think it came out like a year or two ago. I have not seen it.
No, I have not seen that one, and maybe it's out of protest, but no, I have not seen
it. Yeah, I hear you. All right, where are we starting?
Let's start here. Let's go with the Rookie of the Year. Rookie of the Year award. Keith, we did not set this up with any rhyme or reason or anything like that. Let's just talk about who we think could win it and who we think will win it. This rookie class is not seen as a great rookie class. We knew that there would be some rotation guys in this class, but probably not going to be like certainly not like next year's rookie class, which is predicted to be an absolutely loaded group. So this is an interesting one. And ultimately, Keith, when I'm looking at this award, I think it comes down to opportunity. It comes down to opportunity. Who's going to be on the floor? Who's going to get minutes? Who's going to play a role on a team where they're going to get attention, right? Where they're going to win enough. They're going to be in the spotlight. Those sorts of things matter. I guess just to reveal my pick, there's a bunch of names that you could put into the mix here, but I think the guy with the cleanest path to opportunity and a role on a team that I think is going to be pretty good It's Zach Edey. I mean,
Yep.
and I know that's not a hot take because he's the betting favorite right now to win it, but he's got a starter's job right out of the gates. It's Zach
Yep.
Edey. That's my guy. If I had to pick anybody, I think he's going to win it.
Yeah, and if people see me looking away, I'm typing so I can track these, so we can have a little sense of accountability when we get to the end of the year. I'm with you. I picked the same guy for the exact same reason. Rookie of the year, more than any of the other awards, it's a counting stats award. We go through and kind of who averaged the most points, rebounds, and then what is used often as a tiebreaker is what was the team's success? Because a lot of times that doesn't get overly factored in because it's a player's on a bad team, like Wembanyama last year, runaway rookie of the year, but his team wasn't very good, but no one cares because that's not what this award is about. I'm with you. I think Zach Edey is the guy who will play the most of any of the rookies here. He, at least today, the day before we start the season, he has the cleanest path to a rotation role, probably even a starting role event, if not right away, but definitely pretty quick.
Yeah, I saw they brought him off the bench for I think it was the last preseason game, but I mean he's a major. There's a reason why they drafted him. Like he's drafted to be their guy. Like they don't have anybody else that can do what he does.
But I mean, if we go through the other top picks, Zachary Sachet going to play, but probably not start right away. Alex Sarr not going to start right away. I'm going to skip Reed Shepherd because he's the other guy, and I'm going to skip Stephon Castle because those are the two guys.
This is the betting odds right now on this that I'm putting up on the screen.
Okay, perfect. Then you've got Ron Holland not going to play and start right away. Tajon Salon, same thing. Donovan Clingan, Rob Dillingham, Cody Williams. That's just your top 10 draft picks. Only Zach Edey is the only one that looks like he will start right away. Now, Reece Shea has moved up, I think, because people have started to get really excited about him. But I would say when you start looking at some of these guys, the other two guys are Reed Shepherd and Stephon Castle because they're going to both play a lot. They're going to have big roles, and they're both going to get a lot of shots, a lot of chance for assists. In the case of Castle, probably even some rebounds and defensive impact. And that is, I think, going to be, they're like the kind of open and shut case for challengers to Zach Edey. But again, Zach Edey's just by being decent, he's going to get 10 points and like 8 rebounds a night. And then probably a block or two. And that's probably going to be enough to get it done.
If Reed Shepherd was starting, he'd be my pick. But I think I break the tie with the path to minutes, and Zach Edey's got the path to minutes, and so that's where I'm going with that one.
Well, hopefully these will get more exciting as we go. We're not the same all the way through. I don't think we will be.
All right, let's go Coach of the Year. Keith, I kind of went first on the Edey one on Rookie of the Year. You go ahead and go first here on Coach of the Year.
I think a team that's going to get a ton of love in award season because I think they're going to be an absolute monster regular season team this year. They're going to be good in the playoffs too, but we're not talking about that right now. Mark Daigneault of the Oklahoma City Thunder, I think, is going to be right up there. Now, here's the challenge with Coach of the Year. This is rarely the truly best coach. Eric Spoelstra's never won it, and he's probably the best coach in the NBA. And this is more the whose team overachieved the most award is where it tends to go. But I'm going with Mark Daigneault because I think the Thunder are going to be awesome this season. And I think he is, for my money, I think we're going to see this be one of those years where the Thunder just get a ton of love across a whole bunch of the different awards categories. So that's why I went with him.
So you're going with a back-to-back Coach of the Year then in Mark Daigneault last season.
Which is also rare.
See, this is my prop. Like Coach of the Year, as you mentioned, it's essentially a misnomer the way that the award actually is because it's hard to quantify who's really the best coach. Like we have stats that can say, hey, this player puts up X number of points, has this kind of impact or whatever. It's hard to, how much of it is that specific coach? How much of it is their staff? How much of it is the players that are on the floor? It's a harder thing to quantify. So it's essentially become which team was the most surprising in a positive way on the course of the season. I'm going to go with Ime Udoka for the Houston Rockets. Now, I don't know that the Houston Rockets make the playoffs, but when I'm looking at which team has the best chance, that has low expectations right now, relatively, that has the best chance to be a lot better than what people would expect them to be. For people to go, whoa, they're way better than we thought. It's Houston. It's the Houston Rockets. And I'm going to go with Ime Udoka. Obviously, he changed things defensively for Houston, in addition to the new players coming in, but changed things quite a bit defensively for Houston last season. This is a team that's on the rise, and I think they could be the team to make the leap. I believe last year I picked Daignault for the same reason, because I thought the Thunder were going to take that big leap forward. I'm not expecting a Thunder-esque leap here from Houston, but I do think of the field, they're the team that has the best chance to surprise in a positive way.
Yeah, I think that's a really solid pick. I think a couple other names I'll throw out there. I think if the Celtics approach anything like the regular season dominance they had last year, Joe Mazzulla is going to be right in the mix. The problem is people will be like, okay, you're awesome and great. You're still awesome. But I think he at the very least, he should get more love for what he does for the team. Like, cause they are playing the style he wants, them to play. My next Taylor Jenkins, if the Grizzlies bounce back, like we think he's going to get a lot of love. I think, Chris Finch
does he get?
Go ahead.
Let's stop and talk for just a second. I was thinking, because I thought that same thing about Taylor Jenkins, but then I thought, like, they're the easy pick. I was shocked on the GM poll that they weren't picked as the team to improve the most, but that's because they were injured all of last season. Does that dilute the vote for Taylor Jenkins? It's not so much that they're like a young team on the rise. They were just decimated by injuries last season, and this season, fingers crossed, hopefully they won't be.
Yeah, there's probably some of that, because I think there's probably some level of, well, you're just back to being good again. So why are we going to give you credit for that? Yeah, I can see that. I think there's definitely some of that. The other guy I'll mention is Chris Finch, just because I think after the trade, some people have gotten a little bit lower on the Timberwolves. I think that's starting to swing back. Now, obviously, over the last week, I've been listening to a lot of season preview stuff. I think some people were kind of harsh on the trade early on the Wolves side have come back around and like, you know what, actually, this is probably going to work out okay for them. So let's say they end up the 1 seed in the West, which would, I think, be a surprise to most. Then all of a sudden, I think Chris Finch starts seeing a lot more love. And the last guy I'll mention, just because I think there's a chance this team could be way better than they were a year ago, is Mike Budenholzer in Phoenix. I think there's a chance that they can be a lot better. And again, there might be hey, that team's now a 54-win team and a top 2 seed or whatever. And they're there. Now some of that is, well, they played up to expectations, but Bud will have a hand in that, obviously.
And as the new coach coming in, if they're significantly better than last season, what changed? And yes, some of the personnel did change, but what people are going to point to is, we've got a different coach. And that's that's a good point. That's a good call. All right. Most improved player. Let's get to that.
This one's so hard.
It is. This is a tough one, but I've got a guy, Keith. I've got a guy that I like a lot.
If this is the same one, I'm done, because I'll be shocked.
Okay. I've got a guy. He is not the betting favorite to win the award.
Okay.
But I think because of some injuries last season, he didn't quite jump onto the national radar the way he needs to. I don't think he's getting an extension done with his team today. That's what we've heard. But you don't put up 16 points, 9 boards, and 4 assists last season without being awesome. Jalen Johnson for the Atlanta Hawks is my guy. Is that your pick?
Nope, it wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, we want somewhere different, but I like that pick.
I'm going Jalen Johnson. Again, not the favorite right now to win the award, but I like him a lot. And I think that that he's very deserved. I think this is going to be the year that he really takes that next step, which oftentimes that's most improved, right? It's the guy that was kind of flying under the radar a little bit, and then suddenly the national consciousness gets aware of how good he is.
Yeah, and if that team overachieves at all, like let's say they're in the mix for the top 6 somehow, or even the top 8 in their hosting games in the play-in tournament, he'll be the reason why. And then when we get into our standings tomorrow, I think the top 8 in the East is very well defined going into the season. But I've continued to say one of the teams in that group will fall out. That's just how it goes every year. Somebody has the year where ton of injuries, it all kind of falls apart on them. And the Hawks are as good a bet as any of the teams from behind is coming up. So I could be there. Yeah, get out of here with Wembanyama. Like that's
I know.
ridiculous.
Why
like,
is he on that? He's the favorite right now at plus 500.
No, like he's already
already great.
Like, yeah. Like, I mean, he'll improve, but like a ton of people don't believe this should ever go to a second year player. Because there's a lot of people who think like that should happen naturally. With this, I've even heard people with actual votes who have said, I won't give it to anybody on a rookie scale deal because you should get better year over year on your rookie scale contract. But yeah, Wembanyama should not be in this conversation. So I love that Jalen Johnson pick. My pick is not even on the board.
Oh, I like it.
I'm going with Nikola Jovic of the Miami Heat.
That's a good one.
I think he is going to be a huge part of that Heat team. He is very likely going to start for them. I know a lot of people get all fired up over Jaime Jaquez with good reason. He's very good. Like not going to complain. I think they just like Jaquez and that kind of do it all, forward playmaker, wing role coming off the bench. So I think Jovic is going to start. He's going to be the power forward on the Heat next to Bam Adebayo. And his big thing needs to be knock down shots. And he played well despite an injury over the summertime. Played pretty well during the Olympic run for Serbia. So that's my pick, Nikola Jovic. I think there's a chance he has a big season. If I was going for a backup guy, again, not even on the board, I think Keegan Murray of the Sacramento Kings may break out to like a national like level where people are just very conscious of him as a player in the national level, especially if that Kings team takes a big leap.
Yeah, that's a good pick. That's a good pick as well. And that actually, I'm going to use that to segue into our 6th man of the year because I'm also picking a Sacramento King. I thought he had really good shot to win it this last year, but I think this is the year Malik Monk is going to get it. His archetype of player, microwave scorer off the bench. Historically, we've seen guys like that win the award quite often. When we think about Lou Williams, we think about Jamal Crawford. I think Malik Monk fits perfectly with this award, and I'm high overall on the Sacramento Kings this coming season. So it's a easy pick for me. I'm going to go Malik Monk for 6th man of the year.
Yeah, I like that one. I think that's a pretty solid pick. Really good player. I think you're right. I know there were debates on whether he would start or not, but Keon Ellis seems to be pretty locked in as a starting guy. And I think that's the right decision. I think Ellis gives the Kings a little bit more defense, and they need somebody who can be kind of a perimeter stopper for them. And then Monk comes in. Yeah, he's gonna the reason why when we do our tiers of free agents, the reason I had him ranked as a starter, even though he came off the bench, because he has starter level of impact. Like he's still gonna play 30 minutes a night, even off the bench. He'll play both guard spots. The leap he's taken over the last few years in his career as a playmaker, that's made the difference for me. He was always had the potential to be a big time scorer, but the fact that he's become such a good playmaker has been really great. I'm going with someone right now. This might seem like a little bit of a weird pick, but I'll explain it by saying I don't think he ends up starting by the time we get there. He surprisingly is on here, but he's very low down. I'm going with Josh Hart. I think his recent comments where he said, basically he was like, my role is weird now. Like I'm just kind of the 5th guy out here. I don't see the ball a lot. I don't really know what I like how I fit. Yeah. Maybe I should go to the bench. I think maybe even before Mitchell Robinson gets back, I think the Knicks may go big, slide everybody down one, and start bringing Hart off the bench. And I think they almost need to just for a little more balance in their rotation. Because right now their bench is pretty thin. It's pretty weak. So that's where I'm at with Josh Hart. I think by the time we land like Christmas-ish, he's coming off the bench. And I think he'll go back to being that kind of just ball of energy, do everything off the bench, and have a good year. The other guy that I like for this too, I like Dante DiVincenzo, because he
Yes.
seems like he's like, all right, cool, you traded me. I'm the one guy that was the odd man out in the Villanova Knicks. I'm gonna just light the world on fire this year and go nuts. So I think there's a real chance. And Naz Reid, the defending six man, he's gonna obviously be very good as well.
Yeah, good call. Good call on that one with DiVincenzo as well. All right, let's jump over to the defensive player of the year. Keith, I felt like Anthony Davis has deserved this award multiple times. I'm gonna make the homer pick, and I'm gonna say that finally we right a wrong in AD. He's not the favorite by far, but I'm gonna say he finally gets it because he's an incredible defensive player. I've called it perhaps the best defensive player of the generation, and it's unfortunate that at this point he still has not won the award. So I'm going to go AD, even though, once again, and AD has flat out admitted, he's like, they're never going to give it to me. I'm just going to throw him a bone and finally give the poor guy the award.
Yeah, I have no issue with that. My one worry is he going to meet the games played requirement?
That's the problem.
Like that's what I worry about with him. That's why, like, I can't remember. I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about different values for bets. And one of the things they said is like, this guy's a great player, but the value to bet him is not there because he may not meet the games played requirement. That was in the MVP conversation.
Yeah, I mean, look at Wemby. He's a minus 200 to win this, but you have to if you sprain your ankle, you're not winning we're not winning awards. So I mean,
it may have been Wemby.
Okay.
That they were talking about. So it may have been him. It actually was, now that I think about it, because they were like, it's really not a great bet because if he misses 2-3 weeks,
right,
he's out of the running. My guy that I'm going to pick, and I went back and forth a million times on this. Games played, I'm a little worried about with this guy too. Picking Jaren Jackson Jr. I'm so high on the Grizzlies this year, kind of getting back to being what they were a couple years ago. And I think it's going to be hard for individual award recognition for many Grizzlies to be in the mix. I just think too many guys are too good at other spots. Then I'm going to go with Jaren Jackson Jr. The other guy I'm very close to picking is Evan Mobley. I really went back and forth between the two of them.
Yes.
They're both so good that I think they'll both be in the mix for this. So I really don't have a problem with either one. It's if healthy, it's probably going to be Wemby. Like unless the team is just still a tire fire when he doesn't play, which is not really fair.
Right.
But that is, a lot of people only look at the season long stats and they don't break them down to, impact stats of one of the guys on the floor. But I'm picking Jaren Jackson Jr. just because I feel a little bit like I want to reward some Grizzly just because that's how high I am on the team.
All right. Let's jump over
the big
one.
The majorest of major awards.
The majorest of majors, the MVP award. Keith, I'll let you go first on this one.
So I really, way more than I did with Defensive Player of the Year, I went back and forth between two guys on this. And how I kind of started this was I started eliminating guys fairly early because of injuries and who I don't think will play enough games. So like Joel Embiid, I don't think is going to play enough games. I took him out of the mix pretty early on. The guy I am picking is going to be Luka Doncic. I was between him and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I was back and forth between the two of them a million times. Then I finally said, I'm going with Luka. He was right there last year. I feel like the Mavs are not going to have that. Remember, they weren't very good in the first half of the year. They really took off after they made their trades. I think they're going to be very good from the jump this season. Luka looks like he's just ready to have one of those years where it's like, all right, I'm done messing around. Like I am like here, like I'm ready to go. And that the safe bet would be Nikola Jokic again, just because he's always going to be good and he never, ever gets hurt. But I don't know. I went with Luka.
So I also went with Luka, as we keep it boring because we both picked the betting favorite to win MVP. But
Yeah.
there's reason for that too, because so much of the MVP award, there's reason why he's the favorite right now, is it's narrative based. It's, I mean, Embiid winning the MVP award a couple seasons ago, it was narrative based, and there is something that's voter fatigue. Jokic is phenomenal, but if Denver takes a little step back, does that kind of disqualify him after they lost Kentavious Caldwell-Pope? People will weigh on them. Plus, Jokic just won it 3 times already. Like, that's going to weigh on people as well, because people are going to look and say, well, what are we saying about Jokic in the grand scheme of NBA history if we give him the award 4 times in 5 seasons? And what statement is that making?
How many guys have done that?
Jordan didn't do it. LeBron did it, right?
Yep, that's it. Just LeBron.
It's just LeBron?
Yep.
Man. Okay. So that's, again, that's a big statement you're making on Jokic if you're going to give him that. So I think that's going to be a little bit tough. And then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a great pick, but it feels like Luka has been in the mix to win the award longer than SGA has.
Yeah.
And that tends to matter too, where people are like, you know what? And it's supposed to be a 1-season thing, but people are like, you know what? Luka has been great for so long. Let's give him the award now. Let's make this year his year. So I think, and again, injuries, we said it, injuries could change this very, very easily, but my pick was Luka going into the season.
Yeah. So we're on the same page for a lot of the same reasons. I think with SGA too, I think there might be a little bit more feel of this is an ensemble cast in OKC versus he is, not that he's not driving everything there, because they're not what they are without him kind of running things. But I think there is a little bit of, all right, this team's really good because of everybody with him. He's like the band leader versus Luke is like it's so insulting to put it this way, but Luke is almost like a solo act, like with like a really good backing group like behind him, and that's not totally fair to like
how's Kyrie think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he cares anymore. I honestly believe Kyrie when he's like, I want to win. I think he's done with all the, I don't know about all the off court stuff, but I think basketball wise, I think Kyrie's like happy here, like we're competitive, I want to win, but like in that is unfair to Kyrie and the other Mavericks players a little bit, but that's like just where I felt like Luka feels like he stands out a little bit more as an individual player than SGA does. And I think it's time, like sometime, like to your point, we hit that narrative of it's this guy's time. Like, and I think you're going to have extreme voter fatigue on Jokic unless he is, unless they are right where they were the last few years as one of the best teams, and he is just as good, and they don't miss a beat without KCP, and he just keeps plugging along doing his thing. And let's even say that happens with like Jamal Murray not being the same level, then people are probably going to swing back around to it. I don't know. I feel like Luke is ready. Yeah.
And you mentioned it being somebody's time, like just like Anthony Edwards is up there in terms of the betting odds to win it, but it just is not his time yet.
Yeah.
It's not his, he's going to be great, but yeah, exactly. That matters with the MVP voting. We've seen it for years that the timing matters on it. And I'm in total agreement. I think it's going to be Luka.
And again, I don't like no slight at all towards Giannis or Embiid. They're just playing for different stuff now. They're not playing to win MVPs. So I think those two guys probably top out right around 60-ish games, and then they're not eligible. And that's
they're
fine,
okay with
honestly. That. Like, I don't have any problem with that. If they top out there and their teams are ready for the playoffs, that's honestly way more important than them winning another MVP each. And I think that's where we're at now with those guys. I think they've just hit a point where they're just not going to be in that mix anymore, and that's okay, right? That it's just a different career arc in their career, right? They're just at a different point. Yeah, agree. 100%. Agreed. All right, everybody, let us know in the comments section. What do you think of our award picks? What are your picks? Give us your thoughts. Rookie of the year, coach of the year, most improved player, 6-man, defensive player of the year, MVP. Who are you picking
for all the NBA's major awards this season. One more sleep. The NBA's regular season is here tomorrow. I can't wait. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. Make sure you do subscribe as well so we can make fools of ourselves on Halloween.
Yeah,
Till
no
next
doubt.
time, everybody.
Sorry, Charlie. Let me add one other thing. Just a little plea here, and this will go for tomorrow's show too. If you don't like our picks, that's fine. Disagree with us because that's what makes this fun. But don't just be like, you guys are morons. Luke is not the MVP.
Yeah.
Okay, who is then? Tell us who you believe it is. Like that.
Yep.
That's all we ask for is it's fine to tell us you think we're wrong and disagree. That's great. Honestly, that makes this all better and makes it a lot more fun. Just tell us who you think it is then. And that'll go the same thing tomorrow. Tomorrow we will go through our standings, East, West. We'll probably we've done in the past. We pick the conference finals and we pick the NBA finals and ultimately a champion. So we'll go through all that stuff, give you some of our reasoning behind all of it. But yeah, man, oh boy, are we close now. We're like almost there. Tomorrow's going to be one of those days where I'm just going to be constantly looking at the clock and like, how is it not 7 yet? How is it not 7 yet? How is it not 7 yet? That's when all the festivities and stuff kick off. But I can't wait. And let's face it, it's a little more fun for you and I because both of our teams are playing. So
that's right.
So
that certainly helps. All right, everybody. Again, thank you for joining the show. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.